Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 29th day of July, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the chapter 6, entitled Dhyāna-yoga, Yoga of Meditation, text 33 on page 286. Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Proktaha Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Chanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Prokta Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Chanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Prokta Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Chanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Prokta Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Chanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. Any men want to try it? Guess not. Go ahead. Arjuna Uvacha They had to give the whole line. Yogam yoyam tayas prokta Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Sanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. Not bad. Go ahead. Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Prokta Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Chanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Prokta Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Chanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. Oh wait, first I would Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Prokta Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham Napashyami Chanchalatvat Stitim Stiram. That's all right. Kathy? Not yet. Next slide, maybe. Anyone online? Guess not. All right, word by word. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna said, Yaha ayam, this system, yogaha, mysticism, tvaya, by you, proktaha, described, samyena, generally, madhusudana, O killer of the demon Madhu, etasya, of this, aham, I, na, do not, pashyami, see, chanchalatvad, due to being restless, stitim, situation, stiram, stable. Translation. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Purport. The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Shuchal Deshe and ending with Yogi Paramaha, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for a life of short duration. People are not serious about self-realization, even by simple practical means, And what to speak of this difficult yoga system, which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. He was a great warrior, he had great longevity, and above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now, yet he refused to accept this system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in history of his practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few rare men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this were so 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system in different so-called schools and societies, although complacent, are certainly wasting their time. They are completely in ignorance of the desired goal. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Okay, time out. I have a little cold. This is what it means to have a material body. So there's something going wrong. Okay. So, now after all of this, Arjuna is rejecting it. He's saying he can't do it. There were many important instructions in this, these first 32 verses that we can apply in our efforts to practice bhakti yoga. Don't eat too much, don't sleep too much, right? Moderation and everything. We even have verses, Atyahara priyasacha pajabonema. Atyahara means overeating, over-collecting. These are impediments to bhakti. But in general, the outline that Krishna gives, as Prabhupada explains very clearly in his purport, is not practical for the vast mass of us. Many of us have a hard time coming to the temple once a week. What about going to the Himalayas and staying there? You ready to do that? I didn't see any hands go up. So, but luckily, it's not necessary. That's the whole point. Is that Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya to give us the most practical form of yoga. Basically, chant Hare Krishna and dance, and when you get tired, stop and take prasadam. That's the basis of it, you know. But the idea is that there are rules and regulations. It's a sadhana practice. It's called the bhakti marga. It's a path of bhakti that you follow. And if you're able to adhere to the principles of bhakti as given to us by the realized soul, Srila Prabhupada, and the Shastra, and what he's giving us is simply the Shastra as presented in a way that we can understand it in this time and age. That's the great value of Srila Prabhupada's those books. So what's going to happen here? So Krishna will, first of all, the next verse is very famous. Arjuna describes the mind as difficult to control as a hurricane. Can we control a hurricane? No. So, and then Krishna encourages him, yes, it's difficult, but it's possible by practice. And Arjuna is not very sanguine about that. So what happens if I fail? I'll give up my Kshatriya hood and all my relations. I'll go to the forest or the Himalayas. I'll sit there and practice. I won't succeed because it's so difficult. And then what happens to me then? I've lost my relation. I've left my other family. When am I going to go back? So that's his complaint. And Krishna will end on a very high point, giving a description of yoga as just where Arjuna is. Yoginam abhisarvesham madgaten antaratmana shuddhavan bhajate yomam sumayuktatamomata. Of all the yogis, I consider the best, in my opinion. I'll explain why we changed that to I consider rather than opinion. If you look up opinion, it says somebody's guess. It's not backed up by facts often. Some opinion. I have an opinion. Anyway, but probably used the word, so it's in the book. It's no big deal. So anyway, I don't want to give away the end of the plot here, but in the end, after all of this, and there are good points in here, instruction, as I mentioned, and especially that description of samadhi, where you feel that you've achieved a state of happiness that you can never find anything greater, and it doesn't end, So that's there in Bhakti Yoga. So we should be enlivened by that. But here, Arjun is pleading, it's impractical and unendurable for me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. And then in the next verse, he's going to focus on how unsteady the mind, because the whole process of yoga focuses on the mind. It's all, you quiet it with the senses and everything, withdraw them from the sense objects. You go look within, practice the pranayama, controlling, and then you battle with the mind, try to bring it under control. And if you succeed, you can get these powers, and you haven't really sublimated your material desire. So, now I got these powers, I can control people's minds, I can get whatever I want, I can create a planet, that's one of them. You can imagine how tempting that is. And we have evidence. See, some of these yogis in the Bhagavatam, they've got these powers, but they don't have the ethical thing that comes with bhakti. Bhakti changes your character. So you read about them, Durvasa and old Sobri Muni. He's there in Vrindavan, and what does he do? He dives into he's got the power, he can live on the water. You got it. So what does he do? He goes into the middle of the Yamuna River, and he's meditating there. He's not chanting Hare Krishna. He's in Vrindavan. He's in Yamuna. And he sees a fish, and he sees two fish copulating, and it agitates him so much. Now I got to get married. After all those years in meditating, what did he get? So he comes out, and you ever if you have a Band-Aid and water gets under there, and how wrinkly it gets sometimes, So his whole body was like that. So he comes out, and there's this one king who has, 30 or 40 daughters, and he says, well, I would like to marry one of your daughters. But he looks at me and says, he's all wrinkly and everything, So he says to the king, sure, whatever daughter wants to marry you, she can do so. And Sobri is smart. He says, well, okay, they're not going to want to marry me in my wrinkly state here. So by his mystic power, he turns himself into a very young, handsome-looking man, He says, and then they all marry him. So now he's got like 30 queens and the children and everything. So after a certain amount of time, he says, what did I do? And then he takes sannyas. But he's a great yogi. He's a great yogi, So we don't need that. We just chant and dance. All right, here's the key verse, a very famous verse. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balabhadridham tasyahang nigraham manye vayor eva sudushkaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Purport. The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although the mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literature, the Katha Upanishad 1:3-4, it is said, Atmanam matinam vidhi shadidam ratamevacha buddhim tu sadatim vidhi manak pragraham evacha indriyani hayan ahur vishayangs teshu gocharan atmendriya mano yuktam bhoktech ahur manishinaha. Now, if I had been smart, I would look up. There's a nice illustration of this. You remember it? Anyway, not easy to find. But if you look through the book at your leisure, you'll see there's a beautiful illustration of riding the chariot. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver, mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses, so it is understood by great thinkers. Close quote. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind. It is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance in all humility. The method prescribed is Savai Manak Krishna Padada Bindayo. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind. So, did I do Om Jnana? Okay, thanks. I'm sorry, my memory is going. I didn't stand on my head today, that's the problem. Yeah, I stand on my head, but there's a device where the head doesn't touch the floor. It's all the weight is on your shoulders. Yeah, that's how old men like me can stand on their head. 6 minutes. Not bad, huh? Well, you see what happens when I don't stand on my head. I forget everything. I'm sorry?
On head, that is Sirsasana.
Shirshasana.
And the other one is Sarvangasana.
They have a name for it? When you're on your shoulders? No, it's not that I'm lying on my back. I used to do that one with the chin and the thing. This is, anyway, I don't want to get, there's no need to get it. Hare Krishna. All right, so where are we now? Okay, this wonderful analogy, this nice illustration. So imagine the body is kind of a chariot, okay? And it is like a chariot. You move through the world. What's the plate number? 23, I'll tell you. And what's it near the page number? The first set of illustrations. I like. And what is the page number before the first painting? Oh, you have a different book? Oh, she has a different book. It's in here. Did you find it, Jesse? Plate number? Plate? No, she's right. It's plate number 9. He's right. It's plate number 9. Yeah, which is in a section that begins after page 428. There's a nice picture of Prabhupada. And then if you go to the plate number 9, you'll see these horses. They look pretty out of control. And there's the passenger, the soul in there. You see? That passenger is the intelligence. No, that's the soul. And the intelligence is supposed to be controlling the mind, which are the reins, right? And the horses are taken out of control. So it's difficult if you don't have you haven't been chanting. You see, yeah, those senses, the horses, the senses, they're marked. You see, the eye, the ear. And I remember one illustration, a different variant. They're going down a mountain road, a rough road, So there's more, here you don't see the mountain road. There's a cliff there, so that's dangerous. Anyway, I'm going to share with you this verse that those who have heard my classes will are probably familiar with. But it talks about the importance of strengthening the intelligence, because that's really what it's all about. If intelligence is strong enough, it can control the mind and say, no, don't go there. Yes, we are going to chant Hare Krishna. So here's this verse, you've all heard it before. I forgot the Sanskrit. Okay, I'll give you the English. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting those hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. So this is what are we doing here, reading the Bhagavad Gita, discussing the Bhagavad Gita? We're purifying the intelligence. We're strengthening it with ideas and inspiration and, understanding, right? This is where the light comes in. Everything, Om Jnana Timirandasya. We're all born covered by darkness. You see, Ajnana Timiranda means the darkness of ignorance. But the spiritual master opens our eyes. It's not really the torch, it's like an instrument, opening the eyes. And what does that mean? It means that we can see the light, enlightenment. So that means that the intelligence becomes purified and the will becomes stronger. The mind becomes something that you may fight with sometimes, but it becomes controllable. Because the mind it changes, right? You become accustomed to eating certain food, doing this, or so forth, right? The mind is malleable over time. So if you train it, the mind is saying no, and you're saying yes. We're going to get up, and we're going to chant Hare Krishna. All right, chant Hare Krishna. So the mind is also wanting to bring it back. See, this is a great value, and I'll just share with you my experience of the verses. These verses, if you study them, you learn how to chant them. I recorded, by the way, those who are interested, I recorded the whole Bhagavad Gita in 2 formats. One is with the verse and the translation and the purport, the whole Bhagavad Gita, without the latest revisions, but that's okay. And the other is just the verses and the translation. So you can go through it, you can listen to it. So the really special feature, which you won't find in any other Bhagavad Gita, basically, is the word-by-word meanings. Because the word-by-word meanings gives you the interface between the Sanskrit and the English. You can actually learn it. Chanchalam, oh, I see, chanta means flickering. Yeah, that makes sense, okay. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Oh, Krishna, the mind is very flickering. And then pramati is what? Very obstinate? Agitating. And Balavat, very strong, right? We're coming on Balaram's appearance day. Why did he get the name? Because he's very strong, and Balavat, strong, and Dridham, obstinate. So we have experienced that, how the mind, you want to forget something, you can't forget it, or you want to think of something and your mind won't let you. So he's describing that accurately. So then he says, I think, my opinion, I think that to control it, nigraham, right, subduing it, is more difficult than subduing the wind. And it is, by any material means. But this is the great value of the Hare Krishna mantra, of chanting. You're chanting and you're hearing, okay, you're not hearing perfectly and the mind is wandering, but it's going on. And you know that we have certain ability to focus on things, I mean, how many of us, remember when you had to go through grade school? I remember I had to write a whole report on the economy of Brazil. All right, so why did I do it? Well, if I don't do it, I won't get a good grade, and then I might get, okay. So out of fear, you can direct the mind and you study something. So the mind can be controlled to some degree like that. So if you control it a little bit and you just hear the mantra, and you also you remember you're instructed, yes, it should be a prayer. So I'll try to pray and call out to Radha and Krishna to please engage me in your service. That's what Prabhupada said. You can have that thought, you know what I mean? Or this morning I have a nice little PDF that I made of the Hare Krishna mantra. If you want it, I'll send it to you. The Diary of Critics and everything. And you can meditate on that. And then read the Hare Krishna mantra. You get, whatever it takes to focus on that mantra. Because that, you see, then Krishna, he participates. Then he out of mercy, he gives you a taste. And you experience something in the chanting. It's very sweet, You may chant to a picture. I have so many wonderful illustrations I can also help you with. And the whole idea is somehow or other fix the mind on Krishna, you see, and the easiest way is this chanting. Then the instructions that are coming from the Shastra and from the Guru and the sadhus, that's more meaningful to you because you're already experiencing some of it, and it sticks with you, and that strengthens your intelligence. So that's what this verse is about, and I'm sorry, I'm getting so old I can't remember the Sanskrit, which is just bugging me like anything. I got to review the verses. But that was the thing. So this is Lord Chaitanya's teaching Sanatana Goswami. This is the beginning of his teachings of the section on Abhideya. So let's just review that for a minute. There's 3 different stages of bhakti. There's a Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha is where you're understanding who you are as a spirit soul, that God is out there and He's created everything, and that that's where everything came from, And my relationship with God is that I'm His eternal servant. You understand this theoretically. You can't act on it yet completely. But all of that understanding is the Sambandha. And that's the first section of Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Sanatana Goswami. Because after all, Sanatana asked the question, his first, who am I? Why am I suffering? People call me a learned scholar, but if I don't know those two things, what's the use of my knowledge? Sanatana really was very learned, in so many things. But he's taking that role as a model for us. We should understand, who am I really? How did I get here? What's my, is there a God or not? And all these different questions. If we don't ask those questions, we're just leading more or less on animal life. And it's very risky in this world. So he's saying, my higher intelligence now has awoken. And so I'm rejecting these hellish desires. You see? With a great prayer and calling out to Krishna, please, please, there's one verse, this I remember. You don't know this one. Api spara mode padibada sudha koti modode pudana gramanta vahatita balila rasajade manovatsak patum vishaya vishagate vishatime kripa yashya turnam damayatamamam tarnakapate. Does anyone know the verse? It's not in the Bhagavad Gita. So this is from the Lila Chanda. And what Rupa Goswami is praying there, this beautiful prayer. Although the very fragrant and wonderful river of the description of your pastimes is flowing throughout books like the Srimad Bhagavatam, still the calf of my mind is wandering away from that beautiful, wonderful nectar stream and is going into a ditch that drinks the swill of sense gratification. Please take your stick of mercy, O Lord of the calves. This is Krishna as the calf herd. And take the calf of my mind and bring it back to that river. Nice, huh? Yeah. So that verse itself is part of the river. In other words, if you learn the verses, there's this, it's flowing. And the thing about it is, I was just giving this little class, I don't know if you know, in the mornings for the kids on the poetry and everything. And Paneshwari really wants them to start writing poems, and they're actually writing little poems. And we worked on the first verse of the Shikshastika, So it was a lot of nectar. I enjoyed it. They did too. But that's our legacy. You have to realize in the spiritual world, there's no talking. Every word is a song. Every step is a dance. And one can always hear Krishna's lovely flute song in the distance, And there's all these cows, so blissful, they're always pouring milk on the ground. And there's no time there. There's no past or future. It's the eternal present. Nobody gets old. Nothing gets old and boring, And another thing they don't mention, there's no bad smells up there. The lotus fragrance is coming, Krishna's lotus feet, they have their own special fragrance. All the senses are fulfilled with this beauty and the nectar. Don't you want to go there? You see? Okay, then let's get chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's what the books do. They attract the interest, and they give you the means, the instruction about how you can get there. A, B, C, D. This is what you do. So this Bhagavad Gita is as it is because it always comes back. Even you'll find in the chapter 11 all about the universal form. But in the purports, Prabhupada always brings it back to the bhakti lesson. And so does Krishna. The last verse, it'll take a few months to get there, but the last verse of the 11th chapter, this is all the universal form. It's pretty heavy. Arjuna is trembling in fear when he sees all the soldiers getting crunched in the teeth of this universal form, But then the last verse, I won't read the verse, but I'll just read the first two sentences. Anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Lord Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme Lord himself in this verse 1155. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Now when I read that, I immediately memorized that verse. That was one of the first verses I memorized. And what is he saying there? This basic Krishna consciousness. My dear Arjuna, one who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. And Prabhupada said that's the essence of the whole Gita. So that's practical. Yes, it takes effort, of course. We're so conditioned. But it's not impossible. It's possible for us to actually do it. And Arjuna, at the end of this chapter, of course, this is the sixth chapter, is the seventh chapter begins. And Krishna says, Maya Saktamana Parta Yogam Yunjanmana. Now I'm going to show you how you can naturally cultivate your mind, attachment to me in the mind. And he starts describing the material energy. These are all my energy. Bhuma, Apa, Ono, Vayu, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, Nico. Above those is the spiritual energy, the souls. And so then he describes how, okay, Rasoham Sukonteya. I am this. Do you drink water every day? When you taste that water, that's me. Okay. And why is it me? Because Krishna is the source of the tongue, he's the source of the water. And that's the source of it. And I am the taste of water, I'm the light of the sun and the moon, I'm the ability in man, right? All these different things. So how can you forget Krishna? We're always experiencing one of those things. There's the light of the sun, still a little sun out there, that's Krishna. So the whole idea is the first step in God realization. It's practical for everyone. And ultimately, the Hare Krishna mantra, which is not in the Gita, but he does say, Yajnanam japa yajnosmi. Of all sacrifices, I am the japa sacrifice. So we can take great encouragement here. And so, yeah, we're riding on this chariot of the body, and our senses are these horses. We have to try to keep them under control. And the reins are the mind, and the intelligence is the driver, and we're the passenger. And if it gets out of control and we go down the mountain, it can be very frightening. But we have a perfect means of getting control if we're serious and we want to follow the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. As Krishna finally gives it in the 18th chapter and winds everything up. All right, let's go on. Text 35, unless there's comments or questions on these points. So now Krishna will not, take no for an answer. He's going to say, well, okay, but it's difficult, but you can do it. Shri Bhagavana Vacha Asankshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagena Chagrihyate. Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. Purport. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, Hare Krishna. This is kind of the men's side. This is the ladies' side. Is it okay? Or you can go. Yeah, you can take a book. Sure. We have these benches are great, by the way. Yeah. There you go. You're in the right page now. In the right direction. Everything is perfect. Yeah. If you want, you can sit together on the bench over there. No problem. Okay, we're on text 288, page 288, text 35, chapter 6. Purport. Prabhupada explains, the difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, as expressed by Arjuna, is accepted by the personality of Godhead. But at the same time, he suggests that by practice and detachment it is possible. What is that practice? In the present age, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on the supersoul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord, which we will go over in a minute. The first and foremost of such devotional engagement is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind and spirit. Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. This is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. This attachment is called pareshanubhuti, spiritual satisfaction. It is just like the feeling of satisfaction a hungry man has for every morsel of food he eats. The more one eats while hungry, the more one feels satisfaction and strength. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff or the foods offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. So let's see if I can remember it. Padeshanu bhakti padeshanubhavo virakti anyata chaisha trika eka kala papadyamanasa yatasha taksu tushti pushti chadapayo anugasam. This verse is in the 11th canto, I believe. So, by the process of bhakti padeshanubhavo virakti, this is what develops naturally. Pada isha anubhava means a direct experience of the Lord. Bhakti padeshanubhavo, and with that virakti, detachment from everything that's not Krishna. Bhakti virakti, anyatra, that's different. Anyatra chaisha, trika eka kala. These three happen practically simultaneously. The pareshanubhavo, the direct experience of Krishna, the detachment, and the attraction to Krishna. Varakta anyata trisha ekakala, prabudyamanasa, one who is surrendered. Yatashna taksu, just as one who is taking a nice feast after a long fast, like Nrsimha's appearance day. That's a pretty long fast. It's like the moon comes up, then you can eat. So it's full fast. Or we're coming up on Janmashtami. So you have a good appetite, right? You've had several kirtans, burned off some calories, you're ready to take a nice feast. 12 o'clock. Or 12:30, whenever they end the kirtan. Okay, so tushti pushti chadapayo nugasam. With every bite, you're experiencing nourishment and satisfaction, the tongue, and your hunger is going away. That's the vairagya. So similarly, when you have a strong diet of Krishna consciousness, get up early in the morning, and you're just eager to go to see the beautiful Radha Hari in their night clothes, You know why I like the night clothes so much? Because Radharani really has this long sari that's way too long. She can't walk in those saris. In fact, Vijay told me that Prabhupada wrote a letter once saying this is not good, Because, anyway, it's a long history, but they had many of the clothes made in India. And somehow, even though they must have given the dimensions, they thought, well, we'll give more than necessary. So. But you see, sometimes you'll see the night clothes are often made by our local devotees. So that's a nice thing. And then once a year, and Gopastami, where Radharani wants to go out and she has to disguise herself as a cowboy. So she can go out and play with Krishna in the forest with the boys, So I have a picture, one of the Gopastamis. She has a turban on, her feet are there. You can see her feet, She's ready to go with Krishna to the forest. Just seeing that, you remember the whole pastime, So you see now, the yogis don't have that. They can't share stories like that. It's just, I'm telling you, I tried it. I used to do that when I first started yoga. I didn't know. And actually, when I started chanting, I said, well, why don't I do this, because I was trying to meditate on Om, and it's not so easy. So I said, I invented this means of meditation, if you want to try it, So, yes, practice pranayama, quiet, early morning, And with the in-breath, you're reading, in your mind, and hearing in your mind, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And in the out-breath, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And try it. Anyway, I'm not getting it. I once used that to cure my father of a stroke. Yeah, it's potent. I was working in a hospital, so I was trying to cure the patients, but I wasn't really touching him. My father had a stroke. He was only 62, and It was, the doctor said, oh, it looks pretty serious. I don't think he'll recover. My mother was distraught, you know. So I was working in a hospital, but he was in a closer hospital. So I went to the hospital where he was, and I went into the dark room. There's no one, and he was lying there. And I put my hand on his forehead. And for about 10, 12, 15 minutes maybe, I was chanting in my mind. I had this idea that I was chanting in my mind, and trying to project the mantra, you know, into his head. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. He recovered from the stroke. Huh? Yeah, but he wasn't passing away. I was curing him. This was before I even went to visit the temple, practically. I mean, I just wanted, yeah, I'm not doing this as a bhakti practice. Anyway, it worked. He recovered from that stroke, not fully, you know. I think he could speak nicely, think and everything, but I think he had a strong cane. It was hard for him to walk, you know. But he was 60, he lived till 80, and he had a whole new career. He met the governor of New York, and to convince him that the older people in New York needed more Social Security type stuff, you know, and everything. But he never reconciled. I never told him that I cured him with the Hare Krishna. And he always said, when are you coming out of that thing, you know? All right. Anyway, now he's probably thankful. Somehow or other, you chant. Now, of course, Prabhupada wants to chant loudly, loud enough so you can hear it, you know, and so others can also hear you like that. You know? But there is this chanting on your lips, you know, with your lips. Somehow or other, keep chanting. Okay, so that was 35, right? Yes. Yeah, he's encouraging him. Okay, 36. Asangyatatmana yogo dusprapa idime matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptumupayataha. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But for he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self-realization. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Therefore, one must control the mind by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That's the key sentence there. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna-conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice without separate endeavor. But a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna-conscious. Now, if you'll forgive me, I'm going to take 30 seconds out to chant the verse that I forgot before. Kamadinam katina katita palita durnideshas tesam jata mayana karuna natapano prishantihi Utsrijaitam atayatapate sampatam labna buddhis tvamayatak shadanamabayam mamniyum svatnadasye. See how beautiful that Sanskrit is? You know, if you learn it, then, and that's an instruction for you, you know, you could think. And these verses, the Gita verses, are also very beautiful. The Sanskrit language itself is very attractive. And I'm telling you, the new Veda base, they have a whole other Vani base that you can download that has all these writings of the acharyas. I put the whole Stavamala on there, Rupa Goswami's Stavamala, which is a compendium of his nectar poems. You know, Inna Nila Mani Mandula Varna Pullani Pakusamanchitakarna and Krishna Lambada Kashora Sihari Sundaro Jayati Kunja Bihari. His smooth complexion conquers sapphires stunning to the eye. Kadamba blooms with fragrance full on each ear gently lie. His beauty's great and by his chest where Gunja necklace stays. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. 8 verses. This is the first Kunja Viharashtika. I think I'll probably do that one again on Janmashtami. Maybe Should I do it?
Yes.
Okay. But that, you know, I wrote that poem on an airplane from coming back from the New York Ratha Yatra to LAX and then down here, you know, 5-hour flight. I said, well, I know this one by heart. Maybe I can put it into a poem. This is one of the first poems I wrote. No thesaurus, no nothing, you know. I didn't even have any paper. I used the in-flight magazine and the napkins, you know. I did have a pen. So, and by the time I stepped off that plane, the 5 hours went like that. You can imagine, you know. It was pretty much done, but then I tweaked it here and there, and that's what came out. And then here's the Palashruti sloka. You can get inspired to learn it. It's in my poetry file. Ashtakam madhukunda bihari, kridiyapatateya kilahari, sappayati bila satpada bhagam, tasyapada kamalachana ragam. The pastimes that the Lord enjoys in Braja's sylvan bowers enhance this octave's beauty and pour forth pure nectar showers. Whoever sings these verses soon acquires saintly traits and serves at luscious lotus feet with love that never bates. There you go. You just have to sing it every day. I can teach you how to do it. And you go back to guided like that. But that's the great value. We have so many beautiful poems, beginning with Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is filled with nectar verses. And they help to control the mind. They really do. You know, the beat. This is why music is so enthralling, because of the beat. You know, the music and the beat, and you get into it. And you add the kirtan, Hare Krishna, and you had these verses. They almost all have a nice chanda. It's called chanda. And you can get completely absorbed. Okay, I'll give you one more. Now this one doesn't have a poem, but I'll do this one first, which I won't explain the meaning, but just to hear it, each line ends with the syllables that the next line begins with. Jaya Jaya Vangshi Vaja Vishadada Shadada Sadasi Duhapadi Bad Baja Kalita Lochana Sanchada Chadana Siddha Vaduja Di Haraka Haraka Lapa the Chancha the Kundala Kundala Sungo Vadana Bhusha the Bhusha Chindana Vigraha Vigraha Kundala Kalabisha Basada Basa the Kudala Kachapa the Chandaka Chandika Daba the Chad and the Kana the Kundaga Hasma the Sangada Soda the Bahu Jangama Jangama Navata Pinchana Gopa Magopa Manisha, the Sin, the Seduction, the Pana, Sadanda, the Bajad. Bajad the Koti, the Sanga Virochana. Rochanayaka, the Chada Vishesha, Shesha Kamarabasana Sakananda, Nanda Ganama, Nanda Yasundara Vira. I don't have time to tell you what it means, but it's all about Krishna. It's in the Govinda Virodavali, which is a special, it's in the database. I put it in the database. Once you get the first word, see, that's the thing about this. You get the first word, then it comes. And then the last word of each line here is the first word of the next verse. So once you get the first word of the whole thing just flows. You see? All right, we have time for one or two poems, more poems. So, here's one. Let's see, I was going through. Let's see. Okay, I forget the Sanskrit, but this is from the Mukunda Mala Stotra. And he's complaining how this world is like a desert. The desert of this world is scorching me, tormenting me with endless misery. But now I see the perfect remedy. I'll dive into the lake of Shri Hari. The fish there are the lotuses that grow within that pool are Krishna's hands and eyes. The lotuses that grow within that pool are Krishna's hands and feet, so soft and cool. The fish there are his eyes, which ridicule a pair of most exquisite, brilliant jewels. His arms with graceful motions ever make delightful waves in that unfathomed lake. Its water is his splendor. Let me take deep draughts of it, my burning thirst to slake. If you want quick relief from misery and wish to gain perfection easily, then take to heart my easy remedy and dive into the lake of Shri Hari. What's not to like? You can see how it can really absorb the mind, right? And when you're sharing it with your friends, that's sadhu sangha. Okay, one more. We don't want to end too early. All right. This is some of you may not have heard this, one or two of you. I don't know if you've heard it yet, Daniel. This one was a favorite of, actually, This is one was a favorite of Giriraj Swami. I'll give this one. Vidachayamai dandam dinabando dayangva gataniha nabhavatta karchadanyama masti nabhadatashatakoti nirmalangva navambas tadapikil bayodak stuyate chatakena. The chataka subsists on rain it catches in midair. And so he's praying to the cloud to send its fare. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the Chataka, I've fixed my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you give or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. I was in a japa retreat once with Guru Asrama, and I chanted that, and he wrote me later, what is that poem? Send it to me. Yeah, that's something. Okay, so where do we end? 35 we finished? We begin on 36. 37. Okay. 37 tomorrow, for those who can make it. And we'll continue into chapter 7. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.